Now I'm going to table, and I'll request one of your nominated person to speak up and just give a summary of your main points of discussion. So in this table.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone, or good morning. We've looked at a number of issues here. One of us reps here from Sierra Leone mentioned that his institution is considered as a candidate institution, and that sometimes can cause them problems when recruiting students. And he sort of offered the word provisional instead of candidate. If that can be used, it would really help a lot. Now, the other point we've looked at in terms of competition, we are quite happy with the current arrangement from the University of London in terms of you have to be a candidate institution or provisional institution for 3 years before you go on to registered center status or possibly then later on affiliate. We think it's okay if you've operated at least for 3 years, then you can develop your quality assurance systems, and then after 3 years, if you then become a registered center, that is fine. We do not think that it's appropriate to just say you cannot have new institutions coming up, because that will be defeatist in terms of, that will be sort of protectionism. We don't think that is appropriate. We think colleges, new ones should also be allowed to evolve and develop as an institution, particularly if they are credible. The other thing we've actually talked about here, we've looked at the sort of support that the University of London gives to private institutions in UK, because we've looked at two areas where international students come in here. We face competition from universities here, whose students can do part-time work, and then whereby students coming from abroad will naturally gravitate to institutions or universities where they can actually do part-time work. And the other point we've actually also touched upon is the issue of funding for private institutions, for students going to private colleges in UK, which of course, again, we've talked on that, and Craig and Dr. Stahasny did mention briefly during the plenary session that they are talking to BIS about that, and QA also about that. The other point, of course, is the problem that private colleges in UK face, again, with visas when they are coming to study in UK. The issue of distance learning didn't come up that much, but essentially is the issue is if they are coming from overseas, the challenges posed by UK border agency, now called UK Visa and Immigrations, all these have sort of impacted on private institutions in UK, and their numbers have come down considerably. So the danger then is if you're not getting international students and you're not getting local students, then of course, if you're not careful, you'll be actually out of operations in a very short time. So, excuse me, anything else that I've omitted to mention? I think that's about covers our discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Bola.
I think what was quite interesting was that pretty well everybody on the table had something different by way of experience. A few common things, but certainly different things. In terms of competition, our table, not so much competition from other institutions, more competition from overseas institutions setting up a branch or a campus, with the benefit that they could have a proper partnership relationship as opposed to recognition or affiliate status. It's more meaningful, and I think probably they could participate better with the overseas institution. Coupled with that is the fact that local potential students don't understand the difference in quality between the University of London and Derby, for example. We know, but a lot of potential parents and students don't. So that is a problem. The other thing was in terms of terminology, recognition and affiliate. In some jurisdictions, people think that recognition is higher, registered rather, is higher than being an affiliate institution. So one particular institution doesn't want to go for affiliate status, although London U would recognise it as being better because their market recognises registration as more valid. Just little points. Exam costs. The variation on our table was huge. One place it cost students about £400 to sit their exams, another place €25, so massive difference. what else did we discuss? There was some discussion of getting together to provide tuition, different institutions, and for some countries, there's felt to be a need for foundation courses to prepare students for the LLB, similar to what they're doing with the finance programs. Anything else, guys? Oh, yeah, government recognition. That, again, varies very much country to country. Some governments very supportive, but others don't recognise distance learning, so it means that students can't actually progress to, for example, legal qualification. That seems to be fairly common. Quite an interesting arrangement one of the countries has with the local bar. So the bar, the local institution, and the University of London have got together, and they're running support for some of the LLM subjects. Specified by the bar because there's a need for it. And I think that's what it comes down to in terms of government recognition as well. Is there a need for it? Is there a need for more lawyers to qualify? In which case, there's more likely to be recognition. So I think, anything else?
Thank you.
We deliberated and discussed, we also discussed and deliberated on the new program, IFP, the foundations program, for which just today at the symposium, I've come to know that there is some form of planning going around and there'll be periodic visits of teaching and learning. But we talked about enhancement of that support, since that has generated a lot of interest and has the impetus for future growth. So there should be more focus around that. And then, of course, there was talk on evolving the mentality culture, as we discussed earlier, from 18th century to 21st century, where Australian and Turkish universities are becoming very, very aggressive, are becoming very, very dynamically interdependent in this fast-paced world, whereas moving one file in one document and getting one procedural approval through the University of London international programs takes ages. I don't know whether I'll be alive by that time or not. We also discussed that. So, we also talked about, VLE's important significance, and of course, most important, which has really come as a, as a red flag on our table, was the regulatory frameworks from Bangladesh and to Malaysia. To my surprise, what the perspective we had of Malaysia was that the international British universities opening campuses there. But the gentleman here, Professor, he mentioned that Malaysia's government is having a regulatory framework where 2 to 3 subjects are rather are an essential and a mandatory, subjects requirement if the students want to come and enroll in the University of London international program. So I think the regulation factor definitely needs to be looked into, and how we'll be aligning our goals. Then talking about Bangladesh, of course, from the legal systems to the government public sector job expectancy in terms of graduates, which they're looking at are 15 years, whereas the LLB program in Bangladesh globally is providing a 14 years framework. So how to go about that? Whereas, and Jamaica and Pakistan, we don't really have regulatory frameworks which are really causing some serious or severe impediments. But, recently, to give an example of Pakistan, we've had debate and discussion by the local bar councils of, the indigenous bar councils. And historically, previously, the University of London international LLB students used to have a privilege or used to have an access route in terms of their, their grant of practice rights and through the local courts. So that has been debated right now. But, I think so that exemption or that fast-track access which the University of London students used to have, that might be synergized with the local, LLB graduates. But at the end of the day, even if that happens, it is not a severe red flag. However, of course, regulatory framework needs to be looked into. And from Jamaica, yes, everything is, the program is familiar, but cost issues we discussed, less presence of University of London. There was a general consensus, some of the efforts, our friend Pakistan from Lahore mentioned, of course, that the centers, earlier on this was also discussed, centers cropping up left, right, and center, and running on the lines of being a distance learning program as opposed to a full-fledged program. And our friend from Bangladesh also made a very important suggestion that University of London needs to, if taking the line, like how Professor Jenny mentioned that we need to discuss on strategic issues. So strategic issues is that first we align our direction where we want to be. Either we want to align this program to be a distance learning for the future, and encourage students to take tuitions at homes and sit at their homes and take tuitions and go to the VLE and enroll themselves. Then what is the perfect role of institution centers like us? Why are we getting together in London, traveling, all the way as far as, 3-5 continents all over the world? So that role needs to be redefined. And there should be, our friend made a pertinent suggestion that the qualification and the passing percentages of those students, who are enrolling themselves through an independent capacity without an institution, their pass and their failure rates need to be ascertained and need to be benchmarked with students enrolled in proper enlisted affiliate centers or top-ranking enlisted centers of University of London. So that comparison needs to be mentioned and clarified. And then the business model versus academic recognition, so that needs to be synergized. That, of course, institutions will be, if they'll be recognized, they'll be given more support, so it generates more mileage for the institutions. We are able to generate more revenue for University of London, a very strategic aspect for today's meeting. So if you're going to encourage more students to enroll on their own on distance learning programs, first year they'll enroll, they'll deposit University of London first year's fees. And yeah, so last point, that student will eventually fail and will be a cause of concern, and it will be booked as a loss for University of London's bill books. Thank you.
Thank you.
We spoke a lot about this competition in the markets. The key issue seems to be students must be able to make an informed decision. And that means also their parents must be informed properly. That's the one point. Another point which might be new is that the University of London will face a conflict of interest in deciding in how to support which institutions in which way if they are on the same market, to state the obvious. And then the other point was, I guess, in terms of quality, we are quite happy with the entrance requirements to the University of London programs, including diploma. But the point is then, these students are later assessed by examiners in London who seem to apply the same standards to London students. If you want to study at LSE, you need 4 A's at A level, and our students obviously often have a lower entry requirement. And the rest was already said in one of the other groups. Thank you.
Well, in terms of competing, we thought we should think of the University of London programs as a whole and think what we can do, yes, to develop this network that we have achieved, because all of us today we are like 90 people here, or 45, I don't know, but we were 10 6 years ago. And I think we should take advantage that we're all together and see the added value that we can give to our students. And if we can make a network that is profitable for the student in terms of gaining added value to gain skills in the internationalization of the profession, we can compete better with any other institution. But let's think of competing with giving tools to students, taking into account that we have this network to use and take advantage. In terms of competing in the same city with other institutions, no more discussion, because we already said everything about it, and even though we discussed it at the table, I think it's already done. Mainly creating added value by developing this network that we are now having, and seeing what we can do in our web pages to get connected and giving exposure to practical activities to our students. Exchanging them from country to country, or giving more approach to the practical view of the legal profession or the economics or business, but in hands-on experience. Okay, I think that is what we've done.
Okay, I think most of the points have been covered. I think one point to stress is we're all different in terms of sizes, in terms of countries. The competition landscape is very different. So I think the university cannot apply one formula to fit everybody. And so I think that's one key message. And the other point that maybe has not been addressed is what Andrew mentioned. We give credit where credit is due, and the University of London has definitely done a lot for providers. London Connection, it came out last week, and all these institution updates and all that, that's really very helpful. Program directors like Jenny has been around, and these are things that I think institutions and students, and not just us as administrators, I mean, I'm an administrator, but faculty members as well. So the amount of effort put in by the university to support the institutions and students, that is really, really very welcoming, and keep it up. Thank you.